Hello, Larry. So you
Yes,
need to test your audio. Hi,
yes,
Larry. Larry, can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Please, can you confirm you can hear me? Kazim, can you confirm you can hear me? I'm loud enough.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you, man. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon once again, everyone. My name is Olar Dupe, and I will be your host for this interesting conversation today. Please kindly comment section where you're joining us from. I'm live from Lagos, Nigeria, from Philips Consulting Limited, and we are happy to have you all here this afternoon. Kindly drop in the comment section. Let me see where you're joining from. Okay. Hi, Dayo. I can see clearly.
Hi, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you very much. Thank you for
No problem. It's a pleasure, Larry.
All right, so let me see in the comment section. You can see from POA from Lagos. I can see from Ghana, Philips Consulting Limited, Lagos. You can see a lot of Lagos here in the comment section. Hi, Fifi, Ghana. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you for joining us. All right, so while we get to get familiar with everyone's location and where you're joining from, I also welcome us once again to this conversation. Philips Consulting Limited Insight Forum, and this is our first edition year 2026. We provide insight, to interesting conversations like the one we are about to start today. Currently, what is going on in the world of work now, agree with me that the top of conversation across the industry right now is about artificial intelligence. Is what we want to get into in conversation today. Don't worry, I'm not going to be the one, carrying that part for you. We have expert hands in-house consulting. Hi, Teju, can you hear me?
Hi, Larry. I can hear you. Good afternoon.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Teju. So very shortly, I'll turn over the microphone to Teju and Dayo, who will be having this conversation, the shift to skills in an AI era, rethinking how work gets done. Basically, we want to look at how AI is shifting, organizations, and how can we get, as business leaders, as employees, moving away from job center to skill center, a skill-based organization, let me put it that way. So that is what this conversation is going to be all about. So while I try to get more responses from the chat box, permit me to also share a bit about moderator Teju and Dayo, who is going to be having this conversation with today. Okay, please, you can just mute your mic. Yes. Okay. Okay, I don't know, share my screen.
Teju Olugbenga is a people transformation consultant and skill intelligence lead who helps organizations build stronger workforces. She works with executives and HR leaders on people strategy, workforce planning, compensation, and capability development, turning data and labor market insights into clear, practical decisions. Olateju is currently a people transformation consultant at Philips Consulting Limited, with prior HR experience at RS Hunter Limited, eTransact International PLC, Corona Schools Trust, and Brand Eye Media. Lateju.
All right, thank you very much. Teju, I don't know if your camera is on. Can you say hi to my people?
Yes, my camera is on. It's so good to hear. I pronounce Lateju. Thanks.
Right. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to go to our guest discussant, Mr. Dayo Elegbe.
Dayo holds a BSINS in Accounting and Finance from University of Southampton and a graduate degree in Law from University of Birmingham, both prestigious members of the Russell Group of Universities in the UK. He started off his career as the first graduate recruit and founding member of the digital marketing group of Agency, Com. At the time, the largest digital consultancy in the world. Working on groundbreaking projects with News International, British Airways, and Heineken, where he led the first mobile-based activation in the UK, and Lancian. He then went client-side, following his curiosity and passion for mobile, joining Damovo, formerly known as Ericsson Enterprise, where he led customer acquisition for the ICT leader. In 2008, he moved to Lagos, where he continued to pioneer, founding and building Sponge Group into the most successful and longest established mobile digital agency delivering digital strategy and applications for clients including Etisalat, Coca-Cola, Nestle, Reckitt Benckiser, and Diageo. Dio sits on a number of boards. Dio holds.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for assisting with that. All right. So I'll be passing this over, but just before I pass over the microphone to the colleague, Teju. So let me also check in the chat box. Let me see if we have a number. Yeah. Thank you, Sonia. All right. Thank you, Sonia. I would like us to appreciate my guests, Dayo and Tej. Let me see the reaction. Let me see the comments welcoming them. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Adeleke. Debola, thank you. All right. So I can see we have a lot of Lagos. Okay, that's fine. All right. Teju, hi. So it's over to you now.
Hello, thanks, Larry. Thanks. So you're dropping the mic. All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon again, everyone. It's so good to have everyone on the call, and it's an honor to be moderating this conversation today. And I'm not doing that alone. Dario is here with me. We're both just going to be pretty much gisting, and we hope that we'll get contributions also from every one of you. Okay, so today we're talking about the shift to skills in an AI era, right? And, this is just such an important conversation, because AI is not just changing the tools that we use, it's also changing the way work is designed, right? And I just think that for so many years, right, organizations have kind of just managed work mainly by job descriptions, by role title, by reporting lines, by what department are you, what grade level are you, and we've kind of just boxed everything that we do in that way. But if everyone can be honest, you will tell that everything is changing so fast. And so you can design a job description, right? And then boom, there's an AI tool that comes and can pretty much do everything in that job description. And the question is, so what will that person, be doing? And so that's why this conversation is just very important. And, organizations then now need to start moving from just the roles, the department, and they need to now start thinking around skills. And that's why we're having this conversation today. And Dayo and I, we're going to just be sharing some little nuggets around the conversation. So let's start. And Dayo started our gist.
Hey, Teju, how are you?
I'm fine. So when you got the topic for today's conversation, right, a shift to skills in an AI era, what resonated with you? Like, let's lay the foundation. What does this really mean if we were to talk about it? A shift, to skill in an AI era. So let's lay the foundation. What resonated with you when you got the topic?
I mean, truth be told, again, just to start off with, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute honor and a privilege to be having a conversation with you. As many people know, as many people that know me know, I have a fondness not only for your company but for your incredible founder, FOP, Felicia Phillips. I think he's created an incredible institution, and I think the first thing that I felt was I wasn't surprised you were having this conversation, knowing the organization and knowing your founder. So that's the first thing. I wasn't surprised you were having this conversation. I wasn't surprised you were leading the thought in Nigeria around this incredible transformation that everybody is witnessing. But to go more sort of nuanced in terms of the actual topic itself, the first thing that came to my mind was, understanding definitions, right? because we throw around a lot of words when we say, is it skills? Is it jobs? Like, what is a job? What is a skill? Right? And in the past, you would sort of take it for granted. If you say something like, oh, this is the job that needs to be done, you would assume everybody understands what that is. Not anymore. Simply because we have to get a little bit more, not a little bit, we have to get a lot more precise about what it is that we want to accomplish. So that's the first initial reaction from a more technical perspective, is let's try and understand the definition of these terms, because in the AI era, they've certainly changed.
Okay. Okay.
I hope
So
that's,
let's
yeah,
start.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, go
Yes.
on.
So let's start the conversation, from there, right? So, looking at the AI era and looking at previously how you would describe or how you would design a particular role, and looking at it now, right? Looking at the AI era, how would you design a particular role? I
That's
think
a
we
great
can.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things that I've certainly had to do the last couple of years is really start to break down what it is that we actually believe in terms of like what value do we believe we're delivering as an organization, right? And once we understand that, we then go back and say, okay, in order for us to deliver this value, what are the kind of outcomes that we expect, right, from everybody involved in the organization? So it's certainly driven a thought around what exactly are we delivering, right? And how do we deliver that? So that's the sort of, I would say, the foundation is to sort of look at, okay, what is it? How do we add value? And then go about and say, how do we deliver that value given the new environment we work in, given the tools that we have available to ourselves, and given the expectations that our buyers, our clients are now sort of expecting.
Okay. So, I think from what you've said, it's clear that right now in the AI era and how we design rules, it has gone beyond designing a job just around, say, what the role is, and then you say that that's all. But it's now moving from what value, right, can you add? It's not just about your job title, but it's around what value are you bringing to the table, and how are you going to bring that value to the table. So, the future of work, or moving that shift, right, to being skill first, is saying that organizations now have to actually start rethinking how they design their roles, and they shouldn't just design it based on titles or based on your levels, or start designing it based on what are the capabilities that you have, right? What are the skills that you have that can actually help me add value to what I'm doing? These are my business goals. I understand the degrees that you have. I understand the qualifications that you have. But in terms of the value that I want to drive in my business, what are the skills, that are needed, to drive that particular value? And, if you can give us just maybe an example of a particular role that you're conversant with, right? What the description was before the AI era and what it is now. And if you can just say what the differences are right now, that would be
Yeah,
great.
no, absolutely, Teju. To be honest with you, you're absolutely spot on when you say we have to go back and really think about the roles that we have within our organization. The first one I would start with is the CEO, right? The CEO role, right? And when I talk about having to really think deeply about how we sort of break down the role in an organization, I would say the way I look at it is I look at it in two ways. I go, okay, what is a programmable skill, right?
Okay.
That my organization needs. Okay. And what I mean by programmable skill is what is something that it may not be automated now, right? but it can be automated, right? So I said, okay, what are the different skills that I need that in order for us to function and whatever our workflow is, right? What is programmable? Doesn't matter whether or not it is we're currently doing it using automation or we're using a human being. Let's understand that. And then the second one is what is human dependent, right?
Mhm.
What is something that actually a human being is the only person that can deliver this thing effectively? Okay. So let me give example of the CEO role, right? There are many things that the CEO does in their role. The first one is they have to have a vision for their business, right? So they have to understand, okay, this is where we're going. This is how we add value, right? And a lot of that is not just how would I put it? It's not just philosophical, although a part of it is philosophical in terms of like what are the values that you think, what is your unique perspective of the market, how do you think you can deliver that value? All of those are sort of softer type of skills to sort of use hopefully HR terms, right? And then other things that are sort of a little bit more technical, right? Some may even say programmable, which is the ability to consume a lot of data about your business and be able to say, because of this data that I'm seeing about my business, this is the next step we should take, or this is how we should prioritize our resources. Okay. So those kind of programmable skills, like back in the day, you would have to, do the research, you would have to do, you would have to read the reports, you have to review it, etc. Right?
Mhm.
You're still having to do that as the
Mhm.
CEO, but now with the introduction of AI, you can actually set up certain things, right, that would allow you to process a lot of that information a lot quicker, and with your unique lens on. Okay, so you can actually train some of these LLM platforms to look at the data the way you would look at the data, or they would look at it based on the fact that they know how you look at data, right? So that has made the job of that portion of the CEO's job, right? It has allowed the CEO to make decisions a lot quicker, allowed the CEO to review data and allocate resources a lot quicker, right? So yeah, hopefully that gives you kind of a way
Yes,
that my
yes.
mind looks at, yeah.
Yes, yes, it does. And I think just bringing everything together, what we're seeing now is that the jobs are not going away, right? But the tax within the job, the tax within that particular role is changing and is evolving, right? Because you're saying it now, um, as you made the example of the CEO, right? Some of the things that you would have to spend time doing, there are already AI tools that can actually help you do a lot of that. And so what is required of you is now to do other things, right? You can do other strategic things because you already have tools taking care of other items, right? Things can be automated, things can be augmented, but you have to then revolve around doing other things. And just drawing everything together, right? It's saying that the jobs are not going away, the jobs are not disappearing, or the roles are not disappearing. Because I mean, yes, we're saying that move from being role-led to being skill-led, right? We're not saying that just do away with the roles. The roles, the jobs would still be there, but the main thing is that the tasks, the activities, the duties, the responsibilities within that particular role is changing. And so that's why everybody, we have to be open-minded to say that, what is my role? What was my role last year? Now, what is my role, right? What can be automated? What can be augmented? Will be the different tools that we have currently. So now let's go to, our next conversation.
So
And it does, okay, yes,
sorry,
please.
Teju, before we move, you
Okay.
say something very interesting there because I also want to put a little bit of a caveat, right? So if you're looking at let me look for want of it because I know the CEO people are like, oh, CEO, give me a role that is more relatable to me,
Let's do
right? So
research analyst.
yeah, or I would even say without even let's look at something like
Okay.
data entry,
Okay.
data entry associate, right?
Okay.
If you have a job like data entry associate or data entry executive or whatever it is, right? You can already see that there's a potential issue with
Mm-hmm.
that role, yeah, because is that role programmable? Does that role really need a human being
Mm.
doing that role, given what we know technology can now do, right? So when you have something like that, you go, oh, if my role is data entry executive or data entry uh, associate, then all of a sudden I should be thinking, how much value should I be adding to this particular task in order to remain in order to remain relevant to the organization, right? So all of a sudden, hopefully you can start to see, if you look at things in terms of your daily work, and even as managers, if a lot of your employees, you're leading with the specific task they have to do, then you need to start rethinking how you're putting together your organization, right? There are certain roles that you can't. I mean, I'll give you a great example, like radiologists, right? Radiologists have always been, as soon as AI came in, and I think this is nearly a trope now, everybody thinks radiologists are going to lose their jobs, right? They're not, funny enough, right? Because even though the technical side of their work, right, interpreting imagery from, um, X-rays, etc., can be done very effectively, right, with these new models, you still need a human being to validate a lot of this, right? And to sort of be able to say, oh, okay, actually, in very nuanced cases, maybe this doesn't appear, like this. And yes, the models are going to get better, right? But nobody wants to look at a computer screen and have the computer screen tell them, they still need a human being to deliver that information, right? So that's the human dependent part of that role, right? That's going to be very difficult to go away, right? Because human behavior has to change completely in order for that human end element to really completely disappear, right? So hopefully, I just want to give a little bit more depth to the initial question you sort of mentioned.
Yes. I mean, just to take another key from what you said, I think that also for organizations and employees, as an employee, you have to start thinking. I like that you said relevant, right? You have to start thinking of your role. And like you used the example of the data entry person, right? So, I mean, your job now, AI can do it. So as an employee, you're supposed to be thinking around what are the other skills that I can build that can make me relevant, right? Since there's already an AI to take it over my role. And also as organizations, they also have to now start thinking skill-based, not just role-based, right? Start thinking around building structures around how can we get our skill visibility? What are the skills that we need, right? So if this person has this particular skill and, AI is already taking over maybe 50% of what that person used to do before, but this person has these skills also in these different areas, then you can move that person. And then talent mobility also becomes, very easy within the organization. Okay, so let's bring it, let's get to the heart of the conversation, and is around what really drives output, right? Is it the skills or the roles within the organization, right? So, I mean, in an AI-supported workplace, what really drives output? Is it the role a person occupies or the skills they can apply within that organization? It'd be good to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I would say both, to be honest with you. But I think the real question would be going back to value, right? Going back to value and the durability of your organization. Okay. Because if we look at it from a skills perspective, you can be incredibly skillful. Okay, let me not mix terms, right? Because I don't want people to be confused. I don't want to speak, to confuse people.
Yeah.
If we have to deliver a particular outcome, right, that requires to have a particular capacity or to have a particular competence, right, delivering that outcome in the most efficient way is what we've always felt was what the differential was for businesses. Okay. So if you have a consultancy firm and what the consultancy firm did was they advised you on the best way to go, and they had the best analysts, they had the best market researchers that would go through the data, comb through the data, and then advise you on the best way to approach something, right? That is a technical skill that they're delivering better than anybody else, right? Now, you can imagine a world, and by the way, that's just table stakes, right? If you can't deliver that, right, nobody cares about anything else, right? Let's be very frank, okay? So you can imagine that that's great. And if you can deliver that using the best tools available to you, right, you'll continue to succeed in that area. If you don't use the best tools available to you, you will fall or falter in that area, right? But when I now talk about durability, is that what now happens when everybody has the same level of competence, right? Because of this artificial intelligence. What happens if everybody can use the same frameworks, everybody can use the same research models, methodologies, right? In many instances, to deliver that value at a very premium level. What now becomes your differential? Your differential now becomes the things that the technology or AI cannot do, which are now human dependent things, right? So do I have people representing my organization that have great empathy, right? People that represent my organization that have great communication skills, right? They can tell the right story around the data, the strategy, all of these elements that is going to make me the preferred partner from a consultancy perspective, right? To other people that can still deliver on the competency or the technical side of it, right? Now that bit is going to be more difficult to disrupt. So that now builds in durability into your business, right? And what you care about more than anything else as an organization, right, is to continue to exist. Right. So that now becomes the area you go, how do I build the culture? How do I build the systems? How do I build all of the things necessary for me to keep existing, even as the context in which I'm operating continues to change?
Yeah, I like what you said, and I would just like to, take it up from there, right? In terms of you saying that, what about if everybody now they have these required skills that are needed, right? The technical skills, is available, but there's still some certain skills or some certain traits that you would expect, that will keep your business going. And I would just like to ask, right, the way AI is becoming more integrated into our work, what types of skills or what skills are now going to become more valuable, that will help augment how AI has already, disrupted different areas, different aspects of our work duties? What particular skills, what are then those skills that you're speaking around, when you talk about the durability of the organization, the culture that will sustain what you're building? So if you could just speak around some of those skills that, would become more valuable in the AI era.
Yeah, I mean, one can look at it from if you can either look at it from the organization, like you delivering services to your clients, right, or your buyers or your customer. From like, let's look at it from, you can look at it from the macro level, right? How does my organization differentiate myself given the, and then you can bring it to the individual level as well, right? I mean, okay, let's even start at the individual level, right? So at the individual level, again, let's go back to our initial data entry clock, right? Let's call it data entry clock. The moment you're a data entry clock in an organization, you should have some sort of alarm bells ringing in your head, right? Because you've now said, this is a task code that's programmable, right? My organization might not be using agents to do this, but it's programmable. It's something that they can do, right? If you find yourself in that context, right, what I would advise is go and log into ChatGPT and try and figure out how ChatGPT can do your job for you, right? The worst case scenario, right, is that somebody in your organization, You're using ChatGPT to do this thing. I say, hey, I'm using this now. What are they going to do? The worst thing is that they scold you for doing it, right?
Yeah.
But the best case scenario, or not even the best case scenario, a scenario is that you get you use ChatGPT to do this thing, which means you now have more time to do work-life balance, right? Which is the thing a lot of people talk about. But more importantly, what are you communicating to your organization? You're communicating to your organization your usefulness. You're in effect saying, look, this is the eventuality which I'm going to help you take us there. So if you're talking to me as an owner of a business and I see people exhibit that skill where they're actively pushing my organization, right, using modern tools, right, to make sure that we are durable as an organization by ensuring that these technical skills are being done with the most effective technology out there, you're signaling to me as a business owner that you're a valuable employee to have. But if I'm hearing things like, I don't use AIO, I don't like AIO and stuff like that, right? You're not showing me that you
Yeah.
have my organization's best interests at heart, right? In terms of leading us into that future, because you're literally saying, okay, keep doing things the old way so that eventually you will collapse, right? So at the individual level, I would say, even if you find yourself in an extreme position where your role is completely defined by the task, right? I would say be proactive. Get these tools, start using these tools, and start driving the organization in it. You're a change agent, right? That used to be a very popular term back in the day. Well, it probably still is, right? So you're a change agent for the organization. That's always not good. That's not going to go out of fashion, right? And at the organizational level, if all you're delivering for your clients is, doesn't come with that human dependency element or component, right? Yeah, you'll thrive for a while because you get a lot of optimization from using all the tools. But slowly people start to ask, but why are we with them? Why are we choosing this company? Why do I keep going with this? The idea that, people will just keep using us because there are large switching costs. You know what I mean? So I'm so used to using this person, so therefore I'm not going to switch from them. Those days are numbered, right? Those days are numbered, right? Don't depend on that. Like back in the day, people are like, we're already integrated into their procurement process, and they won't get rid of us. They will. Like if AI and some of the things that are coming out are making it easier for companies to switch, right? I myself find myself we were so used to using certain bits of software, right? That we used to pay tens of thousands of dollars on annual licenses to the software. We've cut them all off, right? And I'm talking about relationships that have gone on for close to a decade, where we go, actually, we don't need that SaaS platform anymore. We can build our own. And actually, when we build our own, we don't have to worry about, we want this particular feature or want that particular feature. So all those like switching costs that were like a barrier, right? For us, as an organization, we're seeing other organizations that say, actually, we can get rid of those. So sort of is a false sort of false sense of protection, right? That you kind of need to rethink or sort of like be really aware of.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dario. I think it was just very important points to point out, because I feel that when people hear AI, they immediately just think it's only about technical skills, right? But it's not just about that, right? But because now the human skills are now becoming the hard skills right now, right? In terms of critical thinking, curiosity, open-mindedness, right? Being curious, change, right? You're thinking, you're not just sitting and waiting for someone to tell you that this is what to do, but you're already very creative, and you're thinking around things, and you're going about to do it. And so those skills are now becoming very valuable in an AI era. Adaptability. How adaptable are you? How can you quickly switch, right? Not just being stuck and being rigid in the things, that we do. So it was just very important to point out those particular skills that are now becoming hard skills in, the AI era. I think I would like to get some responses from our audience or our attendees, just to be sure that you're here. Would like for you to just, with a show of hands, just tell us how many people have seen the change in some way becoming because of the technology, that's been introduced to your work. You're seeing your work, your role has really evolved. Please, you can just show with an emoji, just let us know if you know that how many people here you've seen your work change in so many ways because of technology. Please just show, let us see. So nice. I think it just shows us that it's already here, right? It's not just happening, right? Technology is already here, AI is already here, and is already disrupting a lot of things. Okay, so Dayo, let's now bring it to our leaders. Let's bring it to our leaders because I think that for any change to happen, for any transformation to happen, right, the leaders are just at the center of it. So, I mean, we've been speaking around a shift to a skill first era. And so, how do you think leaders should start rethinking? How can they enable this skill first, mentality or this skill first culture within their organization? But just before you go into answering that question, I don't know if you saw I think if you've been on LinkedIn, this has just been buzzing about the CEO of MoneyPoint.
Yeah.
When he said that, right? When he said that, they've been trying to get over 500, people, and they're not able to, get the required people, the required skill sets, of people that they need because they're a global organization. What do you think about, his comments? There's been some people have taken it, oh no, why should he say that? Why should he say that? But then some people are also saying that just shows the gap that we have, right, in terms of people building capabilities and people building skills for this era, that we are. But it would be good to hear from you. What were your thoughts when you saw that comment?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not sure whether or not you want. I'll probably deal with the leadership part first before I talk about that. You're right; it's a very relevant, very timely discussion that is being had right now. But in terms of what leaders should be looking at in this era, um, you're so right to bring that up as a discussion point because a lot has gone into. Um, this is going to have an impact on employees, right?
Mhm.
And I hope you've sort of seen with the thread in which I've sort of responded to a lot of your questions. I haven't excused the leadership role, which is why I started even with the CEO, right? To say, look, at the end of the day, this impacts you. You can no longer outsource your vision, right, to managers,
Managers,
right?
right.
Defining value and how you deliver value and how your company shows up and how your company positions is the responsibility of leadership. That's your responsibility, right? Now, do we now have tools that allow us to have hopefully a much clearer understanding of how to drive that value? Yes, we do. Do we have now more responsive systems that allow us to kind of pivot or navigate, much better? Yes, we do. Right. And it's your responsibility to get those tools, to get that visibility, build those systems so that you can continue to be good at this job of navigating your company through these times, right? And keep that durability. You have to be responsible for that outcome. Yeah. Now, in the past, people would say, well, I can't do it because they'll blame bureaucracy well, AI is now showing everybody. I'm not going to be very crude, but AI is showing everybody what everybody's wearing, right? It's showing it straight. If you don't understand your business fundamentally, right, how are you going to drive the change within your business? If you don't understand the primers of your industry, right, there is no way you can be effective in re-engineering your business in this day and age, right? If all you're dependent on is things you've read and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong in reading case studies and reading textbooks and stuff like that. But if you truly don't understand how the mechanics of your business works, then how are you going to lead that change? And it's not a case of saying, oh, I'm just going to hire one IT guru, because that's not what is required. What is required is a very clear understanding of the value that you deliver, where you currently stand as an organization, and your thesis in terms of how you're going to get there. That's what people are betting on, right? So, leaders, you need to understand primarily your position in your business and all that kind of things. And then furthermore, you need to understand the technologies and what they're capable of delivering. Because then you can then go, okay, this proportion of what we do, we're going to lead with this. And this proportion of what we do, we're going to lead with this. And by the way, all of that is now going to flow in terms of the kinds of employees you bring on, the kinds of training you put in place, the kind of partners you work with, right? If you're working with a partner, right, that isn't embracing they've got their head, in the sand like an ostrich and thinking nothing's going to change, then that is going to be a weakness in your value chain, right? And you as a leader need to identify that and cut that off. Because if you don't, then you're introducing something that's going to form weakness within your overall company, right? So I think the role of the leader now, you're going to have to be a lot more active. You cannot pass the buck. You have to be really amongst the weeds in terms of like having a clear understanding what these technologies are capable of. Because as they start to implement this technology, it's going to have a fundamental knock-on effect on the way you continue to operate as a business. And if you don't understand it at a fundamental level, right, if anything goes wrong, you wouldn't know how to fix it. Do you see what I mean? So, yeah, we need you to make those decisions. So if you're going to do it, right, if you're going to automate, it's not even about automation. It's about building the right systems, right? Building the right systems for you to accomplish the kind of vision you want to vision. And if you don't even understand what the technology is capable of, you're not going to build the right kind of architecture.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dayo. Thank you for that. And, speaking of leaders, and I like the flow, that you took it. I was just trying to, note down some things so that I don't, forget. I like that you said that leaders, they need to understand their business, right? Understand your business, understand how value, what drives value within your business. Because once you understand your business, you're able to then start thinking around your workforce plan, right? And when you're thinking about your workforce plan, I like that you mentioned that you begin to know the quality of people that you need to bring into your business. Not just, because most times traditionally what we do is, how many people do we have in this department? We have 5 people. No, we need 10 people in that department. But it's going to go way beyond that. It's now going to be about what are the capabilities that we need within a particular unit. What do we have? What don't we have? And so you begin, since you already understand your business, you understand how value is driven in your business, then you begin to know what capabilities do I need. And that's where leaders then begin to have a visibility in terms of their skills, in terms of the capabilities that they have. And then they can then do an assessment to say, what do we have? What don't we have? And then we can see the gaps. You had mentioned trainings also. So training is not just, we need to send our employees on trainings, and they just go for training. What is that training? What is it tied to? Is it tied to your business priorities? Is it tied to the gaps? And so now when you then want to think about your training, you're thinking about it in line of the gaps that you have after you've seen your capability gaps, and then you can say, okay, this is the training that you should go for based on that. And so I think that's how leaders can actually embrace, or that's how they can start rethinking the skill-led, transformation within the organization. You haven't given us your thoughts around what.
So no, I was waiting for you to conclude, because I wanted to now go back to the founder of MoneyPoint. I think from the outset, I think it's very important to say that let's be very careful sometimes, right? Because there's one thing that we do that I think people, especially online, there's a lot of rage baiting. Okay. Money Point is an incredible business that every Nigerian should be proud of, right? Every Nigerian should be proud of. And when you look at that speech that he made and you look at the context in which that speech was made, you could receive it as a challenge.
Exactly.
Or you could receive it as, oh, this guy is just slandering Nigerians, right? Now he's making. I think the platform is a church event, right?
Yes, the
Okay.
Covenant Nation. Yeah.
So if you look at what church is speaking to people and their behavior and their attitudes, that's what church is doing, right? He's not in a business seminar. Well, he is a business seminar, but the context is he's talking to people's attitudes, people's skills, when you say skills, I'm talking about like adaptability, all the things you're talking about now, right? Curiosity, critical thinking, right? If you look at it from that perspective, he's saying, this hookup culture, not being patient, all of these things, right? I felt it's highlighting that and saying there's a deficiency in that, right? When we look at the human dependent element, right, of the jobs, right? That's difficult. The reason I think that's what he was, or the way I received it was that's what he was leaning more towards, is because if you really think about it, if he's just talking about hard skills, right, or programmable skills, he's running arguably one of the largest fintechs in Nigeria. He knows about the fact that he can introduce AI into every single process, and he knows that he can introduce it in a way that he won't need to fill those roles, right? Or with human beings, right? But the roles that have that human dependency, right? That is vital to be successful and to build durability into your business. He's finding it difficult to find the right people to fill those roles. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, that's a fantastic challenge for affiliate consulting, right? Because affiliate consulting is like, hey, let's come and show you how to fill those 500 roles, because we have the right kind of assessment, we have the right kind of skills audit that we can do for you and say, these are the skills that you give to AI, these are the skills that you give to, and here are the people that are going to fill the role. You can take it as that challenge. And if you're not a Phillips Consulting and you're just a guy out there that has curiosity, that is hugely adaptable, you're playing with these tools already, right? That's a challenge for you to go ring him up and say, hey, you said that we are not here. I'm here. Let me demonstrate to you, not give you a CV, because anybody can give you a CV, right? Let me demonstrate to you, given the role that you've outlined here on your website, how I will come into your organization and add value, right? Or you can sit there and comment and say he's a bad guy and he hates Nigeria and all of those things. The choice is yours.
Thank you. It was good to hear that side. And I mean, I think it's just a challenge for us. And I think it's just the reality in terms of a shortage of skills. And I feel that it's because of a shift to skills in the AI era. So it's different from the things that we learned before. I mean, it was before go to school, get out of school, and that is it. But now you have the theory side. You then need to know how to apply it, real life situation. You need to start learning different skills that can make you adaptable. What are the global skills?
No. I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you
okay.
because you are leaning towards this narrative, which I actually don't. I don't like when people turn around and say, "Oh, Nigerians, we're not sure." I don't know. I don't know if I believe that, right? Because I think it's so easy for us to say because of and I'm not denying that the government needs to invest a lot more in education, and we definitely need, and nobody's letting them off the hook. But I think it's too simplistic to say they're not Nigerians out there, right? That can do these roles, right? Or we shouldn't also be saying that let us improve on the feedstock that we have, right? I think I don't want that to be lost, in sort of my retort, right? Because I don't want to give anybody an excuse to say that's why I've left Nigeria or that's why I'm no longer investing in Nigerians. There are plenty of Nigerians out there that probably have these skill sets, but don't know that they should be communicating it in a specific way so that it can be found, right? So I think let's not sort of throw the baby with the bathwater, right? And let's not add to a narrative that seems to be very dismissive of Nigerians are just, I saw a report that said we are genetically programmed to be the happiest people on earth, right?
Yeah.
Irrespective of the suffering we're going through, we're genetically programmed. But I mean, I thought that was quite an interesting one. But there are many things that we're genetically programmed to be very good at, right? That we need to, carefully identify that and help support. So so I just wanted to add that to the
Okay,
mix.
no problem. I hear you and I get your point. All right. So, I mean, let's now bring the conversation to the employees, right? And I think we're going to be closing with this. Let's bring it home to the employees, right? In terms of how we've spoken about the leaders and what the leaders need to start doing. But on the part of the employees, because AI, there's a fear, there's a subtle fear, right? That, oh, what's going to happen? Am I going to be irrelevant? Is AI going to take my job and all of that? But so if we're to bring it to the employees, what does this shift? What does it mean for me as an employee? And, how can I continue to stay relevant in this AI era, right? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the truth of the matter is this, right? You have to exhibit a lot of agency, right? Which is basically you have to very deliberate and take control of your destiny, right? Um, if you're working in an organization that is very proactive, that's working with someone like Philips Consulting, for example, right? And they're saying, okay, here are your gaps and etc. In your workforce, and here are your skills gaps. This is where you need to improve. Then really embrace that, right? Embrace it and get better, right? And I know a lot of times people they really they kind of they struggle with receiving like positive criticism, right? Or helpful criticism, right? So they don't want to change. They're blaming everybody else. They say, no. The reason I'm not progressing is because my manager hates me, right? Or the people in the village are coming after me. And it's like, no, it isn't. The world is changing. Value is being created in really different ways. And if you don't get with the program, and if you don't sort of want to be better, and you don't strive to be better and learn new things and move with the program, you're going to be left behind. And it's got nothing to do with the people in the village. It's got nothing to do with anybody. It's to do with the fact that you've not taken agency and really driven your own sort of future. So I think for employees, I think, there's a lot of, you can be very fearful, right? Because there are a lot of things are coming out, right? Or you can look at it and say, actually, this is an opportunity for me to improve, to be better, right? I know there's a classic book, Who Moved My Cheese? Very small book, not very long, but like, you don't want to be like, I'll give away too much of the book. I think people should go read it. It's a timeless essay, right? That really, I say, points to the right kind of attitude to have about really changing times. And very practically, if you have something like data entry clerk in your job description, start thinking quickly, because look, a lot of it, or telephone customer help desk operator or something, you need to start thinking, right? And show how you can exhibit value. And I hate to say this trope, but I'm going to bring it on anyway. Like, you've heard people say so many times, AI is not what's going to take your job away. It's somebody else using AI better than you that's going to take your job away. And the truth is, that's it, for both the individual and at the company and enterprise level.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So, I mean, if I were to pick some of the things that you're saying, is that for employees, what we need to start doing is to, have that growth mindset, right? Have that growth mindset. And you need to just accept that things are changing. things are changing, your work is changing, life, everything is changing, systems are changing. And so as employees, we have to start building some transferable skills, right? Not just the skills that are within the things that you do, but what else can I learn, outside of what I am doing. So learn how to use AI. Don't avoid AI. Like you said, AI is not going to take your job, but those using AI would actually, take your job. So also speaking around mindsets, what mindsets do you think employees should adopt, in the AI era? What mindset should employees have to survive the AI?
Yeah. I think the first one is courage,
Courage.
right? You have to have courage. And the reason I say that's the first one I lead with, right, is because every single step that you do after that, you require courage. So the courage to even to decide that I can have agency over my progress, right? And courage to decide that I can learn something new. The courage to decide that actually I'm not going to be affected in a negative way, right? By this new, in fact, this is going to work for me, right? That courage is not, it's courage in the, it's not courage in the absence of that. There's going to be a lot of doubt. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty, but you still have courage. That's the first one. The second one, you have to build the competence, right? You have to build the competence in these tools. Like if you say, okay, I'm courageous, I'm going to do well, and you have the right attitude, and you're curious, and you've got all these things, and then you don't have any competence because you haven't, downloaded the app, or you only know it in superficially. You haven't applied these tools to your work, right? How are you going to build the competence for it? So you need to marry your courage with competence, right? Use the tools, play with it, see what it's capable of doing even within your role, right? And then the last one is confidence. Once you've got that sorted, once you've now got, okay, you know what? I've taken a step. I've designed it in a risk-free way, in a data compliant way. I've seen that it works. I've seen that these things work. And have the confidence to drive it and put it in front of either your manager or put it in front of whoever it is that you think will see your value, right? And use that to drive the kind of improvement in your organization that will make you a valuable contribution to the organization. So that's kind of what I would say.
Thank you. I think it would be good to get some responses from the audience. If you can just type in the chat box, right, in terms of what is
I think we have some already.
Oh, okay. So one skill that you believe professionals need right now to stay relevant. You can just drop it. Just let us see what you also think.
Okay.
Daya said courage, competence, and confidence. That's it? Yes.
Yeah.
So please, it would be good to
3
hear.
C's.
So I think we have a question in the chat box.
Okay.
So Ben is asking, when using AI to do your job, what about data privacy concerns?
What about data privacy concerns, Ben? Hopefully your company has taken you through the data privacy training, because if you're working for an organization, they will take you through that in terms of how you handle personally identifiable data, identifiable information of your customers, if that's what you're laying to. So you'll know when and how not to use those, right? So the question is very broad, right? But I would push it back to say, if you're working in your organization and your organization has very clear policies around how you handle data, because if you're even anywhere near the kind of data that is sensitive, your organization should have put you through the training. And if they haven't, they should call Philips Consulting, right? to put you through the training so you should know better, right? But I do get the question. I might, Ben, I think it's a great question. I think it's great to highlight that there are, privacy concerns around data. But yeah.
Hey, can I jump in?
Okay.
Hi. Hi, this is Mr. Phillips. Well done, Dio. Been interesting conversation and Teju, good anchoring. Great stuff. Just one thing that I want to do. I want to put somebody on a spot. I noticed he's actually online, and another good friend of mine, Bayo or Eshegun. Fortunately, Bayo is the senior director for cloud and AI platform sales for Microsoft in the whole of the United States. So I know I'm putting him in a bit of a spot, but he might have some interesting things to add to what Dai has said. Dai, am I putting you on the spot? I mean,
No, no,
Bio.
no. I'm always happy to contribute. Thank you for the platform. Good afternoon or good morning or good evening, everybody, depending on where you are. Dio, pleasure to see you. And I loved the conversation. At many times I felt like you were in my head. Um, to be very concise and just to summarize and give you some points of view around how I perceive this topic and how the work that I do at Microsoft um, is being led by AI and the outlook we have today on the industry. But before I start, just show of hands through your emoji. Who uses AI every single day? Okay. I don't see a lot of hands here, but we have a lot of people, so I'm not seeing everybody. Second question would be, how many of you, and I think you've already expressed this earlier on, but how many of you are actually scared that AI is going to have some impact on your role, if not completely displace it? Okay, that fear is good. I think it's healthy. I think we shouldn't be complacent, and there's some level of truth to that. Dio highlighted the fact that it's not necessarily AI that's going to take your job away, more so people who are using AI effectively. I think it's a combination of all the above. The first thing I've always tried to emphasize to my customers, to my team, and myself is you should operate with the mindset of how can you yourself be more effective to your organization? And how can you yourself be this change agent and be an example of what the future could potentially look like? And in some cases, that may be displacing your own role. That may mean that you are identifying ways to make your own role irrelevant. That sounds daunting. It sounds scary. But if you don't do it, it's probably going to happen as somebody else is going to do it. And if you put yourself in the position to be that disruptor, you don't become disrupted. And that's extremely important. And once you have a disruptor mindset, what typically happens, history has proven that if, for example, I have a role and I identify that 80% of my tasks or my day-to-day activity can be displaced by AI, and I communicate that to my leadership team or to my organization, yes, that may at some point reduce the need or eliminate the need for that role and replace it with AI, but it puts you in a position whereby you can then contribute in a different way to the organization. More than likely, you as that contributing entity to that idea is going to be perceived as the change agent, which Dio mentioned earlier on. And you would then be able to identify ways in which strategically you can be more relevant to the organization or what's going to happen next now that you have a transformative way in which you operate. I think when we talk to our customers about artificial intelligence and the use of it, um, we emphasize that we're evolving into like three dynamics in terms of how you look at it. One is just being faster. That's the productivity conversation. It's the most common value proposition you hear today. Two is being better. So the quality of work that you're able to produce. AI has a direct correlation to that. And then three is creating new things. That's the innovation aspect. So newness of it, the newer capabilities you're able to not just bring to yourself, bring to your organization, and bring to your customers. So to be extremely concise, I'm happy to answer any more in-depth questions, but it's important as you are helping organizations become become frontier, which is a term utilized in the industry today around companies who are AI driven. You yourself become frontier. And it's also important to not operate with the mindset of, I must be a bottleneck, meaning I need to put myself in a position whereby only I'm the one who can do this. That mentality and that mindset is extremely unproductive. What typically is going to happen is people who are above you, as opposed to seeing you as a critical person who we can't let go of, they're probably going to be thinking, how do we be not so dependent on one individual person? So the key man risk, right? Nobody wants to have that. And people typically have the opposite mindset where they think, I have to be so important, whereby what I do is irreplaceable. And that typically is the opposite. So you don't want to have a bottleneck mindset where you are the person who's the only one who can do a particular task. Rather, how can you help the organization make that task scalable, repeatable, autonomous in many ways? And I'll give you this example in terms of like the things that we're seeing in the industry from an AI perspective, which is a little bit scary, but it also kind of speaks to the opportunity at hand. One of our companies or one of our customers, they're a multi-billion dollar organization. And this is a little bit extreme, but it was fascinating to see them implement this. They determined at the executive level that they were able to use AI agents, so autonomous AI solutions, to manage the executives' calendars and day-to-day activities. So basically, the executive assistants were replaced with AI agents across the board. And there was one particular, I won't necessarily recommend that for any or every organization, but there was one particular person at the organization who recommended this approach. And the thought process was, the way the CEO and the C-suite operate today, the way they manage their calendars, the way they manage their meetings, a lot of this was replaceable with AI solutions. And there was a redundancy in having an additional individual trying to do those activities. So by replacing those individuals with AI agents, they were able to do a couple of things. Number one, the high-performing assistances, they repurposed them within the organization, so that was a good thing. Those who weren't as critical, unfortunately, they did get displaced. But the person who also initiated the idea is now in charge of overseeing how the agents are being managed. So it's a story for me that I share with people, employees, customers, and teammates around just the opportunity at hand to be more productive, the necessity to contribute towards the conversation and lead with ideas, and at a very high level, the necessity for evolution and the necessity for innovation. And if you don't do it, somebody else will. So not to be a bringer of doom or fear, but I think that it is important to ground us in the reality and just ground you all in the desire and the energy and the aspiration to be that change agent and also lead.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Just one more thing, but this is back to Dayo. I just got Bio to sort of share a few things. Dayo, you and I, we've talked a lot about this, but just one thing, how would you advise a lot of us here, that's me included, to enhance our skills in AI? You go onto YouTube and you find all these adverts coming on. In 28 days, we can make you a super a super expert and stuff like that. But how would you advise people to enhance their skills in AI? Because I want to know what AI can do in order to appreciate the risk that I face on one hand, and secondly, the kind of skills that I might have to develop to complement these things that are going on.
I really wish I had this incredibly difficult recommendation or this like sophisticated. But the truth of the matter is this: I can only point to myself, right? Um, I love the idea of AI. Let me just put that out there because that's just the way my mind works. And FOP, that's kind of, that's the way my mind works. But what has got me to be confident using AI, right, is the fact that I actually just used AI, right? I had a good understanding of what I wanted to achieve in terms of I had a good understanding of, okay, let's even look at it I had a good understanding of how my business worked and how my business works. And I had a good understanding of the value that we create, what makes us valuable, right? And what makes a business durable. So I had that understanding. I then went back and thought, okay, just like we've been discussing, Teju, I went back and I said, okay, can I do a skills mapping or skills analysis? And okay, what are the things in achieving this vision, right? What are the actual processes that I need to happen, right? And then I started to look at, okay, if these are not human dependent, is there a better way to do this? And then I went down the rabbit's hole and found out that there are loads of people building agents specifically for that task. And they were bringing in ideas and ways that I hadn't thought about. So that sort of now, the more I did it and experimented with it, I then said, oh, I grew in confidence that I can replace this particular function. And I started with myself. So I didn't say, let's go organization. I started with myself. Is there a better way that I could do competitive analysis? Is there a better way that I could review? Okay, let's very simple one. This is the simplest ever, right? There are loads of information coming out there. There are loads of things. People are bringing out new reports. The government is bringing out new policies that affect your industry. Notebook. There's a Google tool called Notebook LLM or whatever it is, right? And you simply put the PDF into the chatbot, and it will create an audio file that basically reviews that particular bit of data, right? So I thought, okay, I started as soon as it came out. I started off with that, and all of a sudden, it kind of analyzed and synthesized that information, deeply dense information, into audio that I could quickly grasp. That's the first way. All of a sudden, you're starting to build confidence in that area. Is that helpful? So it's like, start where you are, right? And then start playing with these tools. And then slowly it'll drag you in. And you start to say, okay, I'm using this to kind of ingest information. Then the next minute I'm using it to analyze information. The next minute I'm using it to coordinate my activities. Then the next minute I'm using it. And then all of a sudden you grow until the point where it now becomes obvious when you speak to people who haven't actually used the tools. So when I speak to people and people go, oh, AI can't do this, or AI is elusive, I'm like, you have no idea because you haven't actually used it, right? But when you start to use it, then you start to say, oh, wow. You start to build the confidence, which is what I sort of spoke to about. So I think that's a roundabout. I hope
Okay,
that's
yeah,
been
no,
helpful
that's
in terms of
fine.
the
That's
question.
fine. Let me get out of Teju's way. Teju, all yours. Sorry, dear.
Thank
I
you.
couldn't resist it, so forgive me,
I
dear.
know.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
That's a real honor, man. That's a real fantastic honor. But Teju, I know we're running out of time real quick, but there's a question here that I think is such an important one. It's around the tension. I don't know if you guys want the tension between sort of individuals and
Yes.
the enterprise level, because I think that's a real
Larry, you
thing.
read out the question.
Okay. So the question is, how do we manage the tension between individuals, experimenting with AI versus the company that is really investing in enterprise-wide AI system and technology?
The reason why that's such a good question is because, there is a tension. There is, and I'm not sure even I can sort of. I'm going to try as best as I can, but I'm also curious in terms of your thoughts and your feedback as well. But I feel like there is a challenge with. So we see a lot about what AI can do, right? All these reports are coming out saying, look, AI can do this, AI can do this, right? So we know the capability is there. But then we're looking at adoption, right? How are companies adopting these new ways of functioning? And there's a lag. There's a lag between and there's a lag for good reason. And it's not just because of AI, it's because of every technological revolution that we encounter, right? I started my career, as you said earlier in the introduction, right? Really at the dawn of the dot-com era, right? And we witnessed it there as well. We knew, for example, British Airways was one of our clients, and we knew that you could do the whole entire booking process online, right? But back then, they still had physical, like, travel agencies, right? And even though we're building these technological platforms that allowed you to do ticketing online, right? It took a while for them to really adopt that way of basically engineering their business. Okay. Now, different organizations take different times to do that, right? I was very fortunate because British Airways was one of the first people when, as soon as they saw the value, they immediately started shutting down their real world travel agencies. And that added fuel to how good we got at building the right kind of software, right? To make them a leader in e-commerce at a very early 2000s, right? So that, in effect, was like showing you that there is a gap between adoption of organizations and the technology, and then there's how organizations adopt it. The interesting thing about this revolution is that the writer of this question has nailed it, right? In order for you to see what we were talking about back then, that digital transformation, you kind of had to do it at the consultancy level or very highly skilled level. You know what I mean? But AI is so accessible that anybody that works in the organization, right, that has a deep understanding of their role and just has access to the computer, right, can start experimenting with reorganizing your company. That accessibility makes, and I've always said this thing, there is no monopoly on great ideas, right? If you're curious and you have a unique perspective, you can come up with an idea that's truly transformative for your company and your industry. And because AI is so accessible, right, there is a tension because there are, there's a likelihood that somebody is sitting in your organization, right, that has a unique perspective, and their curiosity has driven them to the point where they've used AI to model a solution that you wouldn't have thought about that actually could really be a real differential in your business. And that person is sitting in your organization, either they're very vocal and they're driving change, or they're keeping quiet and they're going off and building their own company to come and compete with you, or it's just a missed opportunity. So there is a tension there. And I'll push it back to Philip to solve to say, how are you helping? Well, how are you dealing with it? That's the first thing, right? And secondly, potentially, how are you helping organizations deal with that? Because there is a difference in this particular transformative technology that makes it slightly different from what we've seen in the past. So I really like that question. I didn't want us to sort of leave it without some sort of commentary.
Okay, so I don't know if Kemi still wants to say something. Do you still want to respond? I think it was Kemi that dropped the question. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
One thing that I just want to, if I can jump in again. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yes, you can.
Yes. Just to hang on to what Dio just said about the kind of things that you can do in your own organization or your business from an AI point of view. One thing that I'm discovering, I'm asking myself, what if, that is the question, what if I could do this? What if it would be possible to do such and such a thing? What sounds impossible today might just be feasible, especially if you're working in an area or in a particular value chain of activities and you're finding that it's such a tedious process. And you say, wow, I wish I could find an easier way to do this. And you have the skill and the tool to actually go and experiment to say, how can I make my work easier? Okay. And it's not so much putting yourself out of work, but just improving the quality of the work and the quality of the output. Especially if you're very, very quiet about it, you're using your own little AI model to sort of solve your problem, allow you to deliver on what you're doing, the value chain of activities. And you find that it is a skill you continue to develop. But more importantly, you're adding additional value to the organization. So the thing is,
what if I can do this? What if I can do this? And that's calling for you to have a very inquiring and very innovative skill. They say innovation is finding the next level of convenience. If you look at anything that we've done that is innovative, is what's the next convenient thing that that one can do. Okay, so this is kind of thing that I think one should pay attention to, just as my own little contribution. Then there's somebody else that just said to me that does AI make you lazy? Diane, I'm going to throw this at you. Does AI make you lazy because you don't have to think through? And I'll confess, I've had one or two situations where I've had to sort of give a kind of a speech. And I thought, okay, let me talk to Claude. Claude is my friend. And I go to Claude and I say, look, I've got to talk. In fact, what I did, I put the letter of invitation for this speech into Claude. And he came and said, okay, based on, because Claude knows a lot about me, knows who I am, because I use it a lot. He's built up a lot of data about me, the kind of things I do, my experience, different things I've done. And so he said, okay, based on you, this is how I think you should make this little speech. And this is how it should come out. And when it finished, I thought, gosh, I know in the old days, I'd have sat down for a few days and racked my brains. But the point is, now I don't have to think much. And I'm saying, aren't I being lazy? Because, all of a sudden, it's like it's easy to do. But of course, I've got to stand up there and still deliver the speech, which is where the human content comes in, based on what Daya had said earlier on, whereby the human being at the end, the last mile of the whole process, there's a human being that's got to come and perform in that interface. So again, does it make you lazy? And then when you think, and it's okay for us, because if you're thinking about our children who have access to AI, we forget the learning experience we've gone through. And I'll share with you another personal experience whereby, I actually got my grandson to sort of add up some numbers, okay? And he brought out the calculator. I said, no, I don't want you to use a calculator. I want you to add it up yourself. And he said, why should I add it up myself? You just want the answer, don't you? I said, no, you've got to go through the process of adding 7 plus 9 and then plus 6 plus 6. He said, no, why would I do that? The calculator would do it, He said, I don't understand. I said, but you've got to go through the thinking process. He said, you want the answer, Grandpa, don't you? It's not the thinking process. So are we depriving people from thinking? Are we being lazy? That's my question.
I think that's a great question. I think the one thing I would say to that is it depends on what stage you're at. It really does, right? So, if you've, someone said to me once, they were like, oh, you're so effective at giving presentations and writing proposals. And I said, I've done my 10,000 hours. Like I have, right? Like if I think about the different types of proposals I've written, it's like, I don't need to flex that muscle again, right? What I mean by that is obviously I'm flexing that muscle every day, right? But it's not something that I'm deliberately training. Yeah, because there is and I also think there's a lot of shaming going on, right? I think it just doesn't make any sense to me, right? Where people are like, oh, you used AI, so therefore, you're somehow not, it's not genuine, right? And I kind of look at you and go, okay. And I saw the best illustration of this, right? Imagine you went to a restaurant and you asked the chef, look, oh, I love this, I love this meal, the steak you've made. Did you actually go to the farm and kill the cow and cut the rib and bring it to I'm like, no, I didn't. I said, so you didn't do it. That means you didn't cook this thing. Because really you should have gone to the farm, you should have cut the rib, you should have seasoned it yourself. No, I directed people. I'm a chef. I said, okay, I bought from the best suppliers, I put in the best. And really look at that from this perspective. If you're feeding these agents with the best quality data, right? Because you've gone through the discipline, right, of ensuring that you're feeding it with the best data. You've given it the right context because you have enough life experience, right, to give it that right context. Then guess what's going to come out at the end of it? Quality. That's still the competitive advantage that you have. But if you now say, no, because some people think that we are being more efficient at doing this, I'm going to try and do everything by myself. Well, you can if you want, but you're going to lose out to someone who actually knows how to use these things and is not going to be shamed by it because they're going to concentrate on the things that matter. can I make sure that the inputs are of the best quality, right? Make sure that the data is right. Make sure that the context is right. When you start investing in the right things, that's how you create a more durable competitive advantage, even as an individual, right? So, yeah, FOP, I agree. To some people, it will make them lazier, but certainly not to a mind like yours. Definitely. What it's going to do is challenge you even more. It's going to go, okay, can you take that incredible capability you have and start applying it more widely into real problems, bigger problems that need to be solved? So it's like, I'm not just staying in one specific lane that I've defined for myself, but I'm actually adding value by expanding that capability to other domains and other arenas. So yeah, but yeah, it's a good one to explore. And if you feel that it's making you lazier, then stop using it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're already behind time, so I think we're just
Yeah.
going to close now, and I think probably Dayo and FOP would give us just something that every leader should take out of this conversation today. If you were to leave every leader on this call and every employee also on the other side, leaders and then employees, what is one thing that you would let them take away from this conversation, that should act as an action point for them as they lead this conversation today? Dayo, do you want to go first before FOP says everything?
Oh, is it lucky?
Thank you very much for not allowing me to follow FOP. Please, that's a real grace and mercy that you've done for me. No, I mean, we've said a lot already, and thank you so much, Teju, for Kemi, PCL, all of you. Thank you so much for this incredible opportunity. I mean, it's been a really enjoyable conversation, and like I said at the beginning, I'm not surprised you're doing it, given the kind of DNA and the culture of your company. One thing I will say is this: at the company level, I think it's incredibly important, right, for every leader in every organization, right, to really look at their business and how they add value, right, to really question what makes their business durable, and to bring in partners, right? I said this before, I think, at another sort of discussion or conference that I had, like, bring in the right people to go on this journey with you, right? Whether that's at the employee level or at the supplier level, bring in the right people. You can't do this alone. Nobody knows all of these things, right? Claude might be your friend, but he doesn't know everything. He doesn't have all the data points, doesn't have all the right contact, right? So you still need partners to work with, right? You have to work collaboratively. You have to be, open to things that maybe you weren't open to in the past, because actually there's a lot of value in that as well. So bring in the right partners, bring in the right kind of people that will help you in this, your evolution. Okay. And it really is an evolution. And for the individuals, a somewhat similar piece of advice as well, but I will go back and reiterate the sort of 3 C's. Firstly, have courage, take courage, right? There's a lot of fear out there. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of fear out there. And, you have to take courage. And in taking courage, you can't just take courage. You have to now build competence. Build competence by using these tools, right? Like FOP said, even if it's about making yourself more efficient at certain things, right? Break it out. Ask that question. What if? Okay, I did this presentation in 2 hours. What if I could do it in 5 minutes? No, seriously. What if I could do it in 5 minutes? Right? Challenge yourself, right? And once you've done that, you'll start building the confidence, right, to be able to push it into new arenas, in terms of your life and your career. So take courage, build your competence, and definitely as you build your competence, you're going to be getting more confident, and that's going to open a lot of doors and opportunities for you.
Thank you so much, Dayo. Then over to you, FOP.
Okay, yeah, thanks. And Dayo, you hit the nail on the head. And I think what you just said is even quite personal to people so that people can relate to it. And that's good. For me, at the leadership level, I'll just share with you that, I sit on a few boards, and what I'm finding is that the conversation is now going towards the application of AI. Okay, I chair a bank and Standard Chartered Bank, and it's a global bank. And obviously, the amount of investment they are making in AI is just phenomenal. And obviously, they're ring fenced, okay, because obviously you don't want to have customer data falling into wrong hands. But nowadays you want to do a credit analysis for somebody that wants to borrow money, and they have models that just turn these things out literally in seconds. And the debate now is around what it is this particular AI model they use has presented. So the debate is not so much, do we do it, do we not do it? They're questioning and reviewing and agreeing or disagreeing, okay, based from their own additional knowledge, whether this person should be given credit. So it's become a boardroom issue. And because of that exposure, some other boards that I sit on now, I'm now saying, what's happening with AI? What's happening with AI? We got to set up a committee. I know one particular one said, oh, maybe we need to set up a subcommittee on AI. I said, yes. I said, you do. Because there's so much going on. What are you doing at the corporate level? What are you doing at the employee level? How are you appreciating what you must do? Be very careful that you don't get, beaten to the post by another organization that's looking in that direction. So from a leadership point of view, it's at the highest level now, whereby you really must, as a leader, and don't forget leadership is at every level, not just at the top of MD and CEO, chairman, leader of the group, leader of the team, leader of the project. How can we use AI to solve the things we have to do? And you've got to ask the question that in the process, just like Dio said, you discover how to use it by using it, okay? And understanding the capabilities. Just as a side, I think it's Grok. It's called Grok. There was a guy we sat down. We were having dinner, and he was talking about Grok, and I said I didn't know what it was, and he took a photograph of me, and then and then he said he was going to make me take my shirt off. No, not straight, take my shirt off. And he did it, and he told Grok, let him, this photograph, take his shirt off. And then he showed it to me and said, there you are, taking your shirt off. And I couldn't believe it. So what I'm saying is that you really got to understand what AI can do for it to be of value to you. And there's no shame at all in asking AI to help you, because it's going to help you to move faster, get to where you're going faster, help you to even discover the skills you need to develop to be able to respond to the responses that AI itself is giving you. So for me, it's just that. At the board level or at the leadership level, we're seeing boards are taking it seriously and they're questioning organizations and saying, what are you guys doing about AI? We need to see it, we need to feel the effect, and we'll grant budgets for it. We'll allow the use of it at the company level. Whatever subscriptions have got to be made, we will do it. And as far as employees are concerned, for me, it's a survival kit. No, it's a thriving kit. A kit that allows you to thrive. You've got to learn how to use it in such a way such that you can enhance your capability by understanding the capability of AI itself. I think those are the things I'm going to say. You don't have a choice. And that's the bottom line. You don't have a choice. It's like saying that work, just like my grandson, add up the figures. Instead of using AI, you say, no, I'm going to go out and do some research and work for the next 2 weeks to try and give you the answer, when you can ask AI to do it, because there's nothing wrong in asking for that assistance. Those are the words that I have in terms of closing. We don't have any alternative. We don't have a choice. And those that do follow that route will clearly, I tell you, be ahead of the curve. All right. So that's all I have to say for you all. And let me just say thanks for all those that sort of joined. Fantastic. It's been a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, FOP. Thank you, Dio. So I'll hand over to Larry now. Larry, are you on the call?
Yes, Larry is on the call. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dio. Thank you, FOP, for your input. Also, thank you very much, Mr. Bayo. We really appreciate your input. The time was fast spent, I believe the conversation was something we really enjoying.
And we hope to have everyone joining us again in the forthcoming edition of the PCA Insight Forum. So I believe as individuals, as organization leaders, we are going back to our various seats. We think how we perceive this AI of the thing and how we tend to take the best out of it. Of course, like Daya said, if you want to be lazy with AI, yes, you actually can be a lazy person. And if you want to see the other way around also, you actually can do better. So let's go back and see how we can get the best out of this very important tool that has come to stay, AI. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I believe a copy of this, the record version of this session will be shared alongside some other useful material from Philips Consulting. Thank you again, everybody. See you next time. I'll see you in the next forum of the PCA Insight Forum. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Thank you very much. We truly appreciate you, sir.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for the insightful conversation. Have a nice evening. Take care. Bye.